I thought I might take a moment, not simply to introduce myself, but to give this podcast a different feel. I really enjoy blogging, to write, to air out my thoughts. That's one way that I seize the moment and to share how I feel. It's cathartic. It's a release for me. I'm a pastor. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. I'm a son. I'm a colleague. And so I spend a lot of my time talking all the time. When I say talking all the time, talking in different ways, and even code switching, knowing how to talk to certain groups of people. But this blog really is me being me. It gives me a chance to share how I feel, share the real me, and sometimes these thoughts will not have been processed through or given a filter depending on who you are. I'm not thinking about any audience in particular, because for me, it's a freeing exercise, an opportunity for me to share what's on my mind, what's on my heart, raw. And so I thought I'd try something different. Rather than simply writing and putting some images up, I wanted to take a moment to step out the house to share with you, as close as I can to the manuscript, what's been on my heart. And what it's been, in some sense, is me doing a journey and realizing that the way some language or some words have been used, I think no longer work in that way. What am I saying? I want to repurpose a word. Maybe this works, maybe it doesn't, but I want to repurpose a word. As a Black millennial, Christian who is fully in touch with the divine, who knows and is in constant relationship with God, but also well aware of my social construct, I know for a fact that words have power. Words have meaning, and words have energy. So I don't do this lightly. I don't do this without thinking about the possible repercussions that can happen as a result of this. And then chances are, a lot of people won't even see this. But for those who do, I hope this momentary engagement with this particular word brings light to something. I've heard and I've used this word, and I know you have too, crazy. And we use crazy in a multitude of ways. We say, crazy, that situation is crazy, man. It's crazy for this to be happening. Or, and that normally is denoting or connoting, a certain value to something, a certain level of it not operating in normal, right? Then we also use that same word crazy to denote a person's mental faculties, whether a person has lost them or they're not operating according to the norm. We call them crazy. And given what's happening in our world today, I wonder if both of those still fit. I wonder if both of those explanations for this word that is in common parlance, it's used colloquially throughout our society. In almost every facet, the word crazy has its reach. I wonder if we let me share with you what I wrote. Crazy, a revolutionary state of mind. For too long, the word crazy has been a tool of dismissal, used to invalidate, to silence, to brand as irrational anyone who dares to challenge the status quo. To be crazy in the dominant cultural narrative is to be out of touch with reality, to be erratic, to lack reason. But what if crazy isn't the problem? What if crazy is the necessary response to a world that has normalized oppression, greed, systemic disenfranchisement? We live in an America that is increasingly comfortable with oligarchy. where billionaires dictate policy. Corporations are people and democracy is branding exercise rather than a real system of power sharing. We watch as the rights of people of color, immigrants, and the working class are stripped away, often under the guise of law and order, tradition, or even religious values. All the while, those who call out this descent into white nationalist authoritarianism are told that they are overreacting, hysterical, or paranoid. In other words, crazy. But let's, if for just a few moments, flip the script. What does it mean to be sane in a society that allows blatant voter suppression, that criminalizes poverty, that lets black and brown bodies be over-policed while billionaires evade taxes with a smile? If sanity means acceptance of this reality, then sanity is complicity. Sanity, as it has been defined by the powerful, is the ability to conform, to keep your head down, to move through injustice without making a scene. Sanity is the quiet agreement that this is just the way things are. I suggest that we should be maladjusted to the madness. As a black man in America, I have no desire to be adjusted to this society. I was born in the ghettos of Cincinnati, where the American dream wasn't just a lie, it was a joke that nobody even bothered to tell. I grew up seeing firsthand how poverty is criminalized, how entire neighborhoods are abandoned by investment but flooded with police. How hope is something you have to build yourself from the scraps because nobody is handing it out. And yet, this society expects me to be well adjusted to its dysfunction. It expects me to live in the shadows of mass incarceration, generational poverty, and systemic racism and still believe in its promises. Dr. King once said, there are some things in our society to which I am proud to be maladjusted. That's where I stand. Because to be well adjusted to injustice is to be broken in the worst way. It is to accept oppression as normal. It is to swallow the lies, to play the game, and to stay in line. And that is exactly what this system wants. Why dissent must be silenced. In every era of American history, the voices that challenge oppression have been labeled dangerous. This is not new. Enslaved Africans who rebelled were called insane. Because why would they risk death for freedom? Civil rights leaders were called agitators because they wouldn't. Why couldn't they just be patient? Today, when black people speak out, when we demand justice, when we refuse to go quietly into a system designed to erase us, we are called divisive, radical, or if they're being polite, crazy. And yet, dissent is not just necessary, it is the only thing that has led to progress. White supremacy cannot function without gaslighting. It must convince us that what we see with our own eyes isn't real. That voter suppression isn't just that voter suppression is just election integrity. That police killings are just bad apples. That economic inequality is just the lack of work ethic. And if we refuse to believe these lies, if we refuse to stay silent, then we must be dealt with. Whether that means discrediting us, demonizing us, or outright eliminating us, the goal is the same: silence. Because silence is safe. Silence is order. Silence allows the machine to keep running. But here is where I suggest the problem with staying sane. And this is why, in this moment, being sane is an indictment on the consciousness of the people. Because what does it say about you if you can be at peace in the midst of injustice? What does it say if you can see the stripping away of rights, the rise of white nationalism, and the rollback of hard-fought freedoms and feel nothing? This is why being woke is so threatening to those in power. Because to be woke simply means to be aware. To see what's happening clearly. And in a society that depends on collective sleepwalking, that is a radical act. This is why the same people who say we should never forget history are the first to erase it from textbooks. This is why they fight so hard to suppress movements, why they demonize protests, and why they label any demand for equity as too much. Because to be awake, to be conscious, is to be uncontrollable. And let's be honest, millions of people have been chosen to say, millions of people have chosen to stay asleep. By the ballot, by their silence, by their willingness to look the other way. They have opted out of the fight. They don't want to know. Because knowing requires action, and action requires risk, and risk requires sacrifice. And in the land of comfort, sacrifice is too high a price. This is why I say crazy ain't a bad thing. So let them call me crazy. Let them call us crazy. If crazy means refusing to accept white nationalism as a governing philosophy, then I will be crazy. If crazy means believing that black lives actually matter, not just when they entertain or serve our nation or conform, but always, then I will be crazy. If crazy means being maladjusted to a society that crushes the poor and rewards the corrupt, then I'll wear that crazy label with pride. Because the truth is, every great movement of justice was led by those who the world once called crazy. The enslaved people that ran, crazy. The abolitionists who fought to end slavery, crazy. The activists who risked their lives to end segregation, crazy. The people who demand justice today, crazy. So maybe crazy isn't something to fear. Maybe crazy is survival. Maybe crazy is love in action. Maybe crazy is the only rational response to an irrational world. If that's the case, then let them call us crazy. And let us wear it as a badge of honor. Thank you so much.